not to make it all about Tucker, but we talked about him a minute ago. And I did see you tweet that you thought maybe one of the reasons he was axed was because, yes, he spoke it out on Ukraine in much in the way you just did, but you thought it may have had to do with Big Pharma. Now, you and I discussed the last time in depth about how it is very true that Big Pharma finances most big media. I mean, they're all over big media. They pay half the bills of these companies, and it's potentially perilous to speak out against them, against the vaccine and so on. He was doing that, but that's just your supposition, right? You don't have any inside knowledge on that being a reason Tucker got the axe.
It's my supposition, on that particular transaction. But in 2014, I had a conversation with Roger Ailes, and that has bearing on that. On my kind of the background of my assumptions going into this. And Roger, I had spent I had this weird relationship with Roger, where it was Roger Ailes.
Same.
Because I spent the summer in a tent with him in 2019. I spent 3 months in a tent in Africa with Roger.
What?
And we had this weird relationship ever since, because I kind of considered him politically. He was like Darth Vader. He was, and we were antithetical on everything, but we really had a lot of affection for each other. And as you know, he was a very smart, very funny, very loyal friend, a very endearing guy in many, many ways. He had flaws, clearly, and those are well known to everybody at this point. But anyway, he knew about this issue with a pharmaceutical relationship with neurological injuries to children, and he believed that a family member of his had been possibly injured. And we had at that point made a documentary that looked at all these issues, the science behind these issues, and I was promoting it. I went and showed it to him, and I showed it to Michael Clemente and other people at Fox News, and they loved it. Roger brought me into his office, and he said, "I cannot help you on this one." Because he always, Megyn, when I was the only environmentalist who was going on Fox News at that time. I went on Sean Hannity's show very, very regularly. I did Neil Cavuto, I did Bill O'Reilly, I did all the major shows at Fox, because I'd call up Roger and say, I have an issue I want to talk about warming or pollution or whatever. And he would get me onto these shows. When I asked him about this show, about the vaccine show, he said, "I can't do that for you, Bobby, because if any of my hosts allowed you onto a show without asking my permission, I would have to fire them. And if I didn't fire them, I would get a phone call from Rupert within 10 minutes. And this was part of the background of my assumption that, okay, if you talk about this on Fox, you're going to get fired. And that's what Roger said. And since then, and he told me at that time, he said, I think he said 75% of the primetime news hour revenues come from pharmaceutical companies. And he also said, as I remember, that 17 out of 22 ads on the typical evening news show are pharmaceutical ads. That's what he told me. And so then when I saw Roger, when I saw Tucker the night he introduced me, and we had an interview, but before he introduced me, he did this long monologue about how the pharmaceutical companies were controlling content on network news and how bad it was for our country.
The other channels took hundreds of millions of dollars from big pharma companies, and then they shilled for their sketchy products on the air. And as they did that, they maligned anyone who was skeptical of those products. At the very least, this was a moral crime. It was disgusting, but it was universal. It happened across the American news media. They all did it. So at this point, the question isn't who in public life is corrupt, too many to count. The question is, who is telling the truth?
And I was sitting there saying, that is exactly what Roger said he would get fired for if anybody on network news did that. So when he was fired 5 days later, I disconnected some dots. But, wow. I know they had other reasons to fire Tucker. There were other things that they didn't like about what he was doing. He wasn't, bucking the trend, but it shows that because he had this enormous popularity, His show was, he was getting 3.5 million viewers a night on an average night, 5 million on a good night. That's CNN gets, I think, about 350,000. So he was getting 10 times what CNN was doing. He was such a huge revenue generator for that network. And what his firing showed is that the ideology and it trumps popularity and even revenues, that they were willing to get rid of a guy like that because he wouldn't, he wouldn't follow the narrative.
Well, that's fascinating. I have to say that's a new theory and just as plausible as any of the others. I made this point, but I will say, Foxnet right now is trying to run cover for itself by putting out the head of its ad sales department to say, oh, the ads are going up in the 8 p.m. hour, getting more revenue from blue chip brands now that he's gone, now that we just have generic hosts doing this hour. But that's sort of a head fake because, yes, they make some money, but they make some money off of their ads. It is interesting, but that really Fox News makes most of its money off of its subscription fees from the cable providers who pay Fox to have Fox on their lineups so that they, the cable providers, look more attractive to their audiences. Hey, if you go with us instead of Dish, you're going to have Fox News or whatever, however they do the pitch. And it's more like if we don't have Fox, they're not going to choose us. And in order to drive those numbers up, they have to show good ratings. So Fox uses the good ratings that its hosts deliver to jack up subscription fees. So yes, Tucker wasn't getting blue chip brand advertisers on the 8 p.m. because of all the left-wing boycott calls against him, but he was helping drive that all-important subscription rate up higher than ever because he was bringing in huge numbers, as you just pointed out. Yet another one of the mysteries to this whole thing. I want to tell you about the amazing extreme altitude wines from the Bonner Private Wine Partnership. These flavors go great with any hearty meal and meat you're going to serve. They are unlike any wine you've ever tasted. Blackberry, leather, smoke, and little dark cherry. The wines are almost impossible to get on your own. The producers deep in the Andes Mountains make limited quantities. I have a great offer for you right now. If you visit bonnerprivatewines.com/MKS, that's BONNER privatewines.com/MKS, you will not only get wine for over 50% off plus free shipping, you'll also get a bonus bottle of small batch limited production wine from their exclusive wine cellar. That's 4 bottles for the price of 3. It's a deal that's hard to turn down if you are a wine lover like I am. They've cut out the middleman, so you're not going to pay a big markup. Just visit Bonner, BONNER, privatewines.com/MKS to claim your bonus bottle and become a part of America's most unique wine club. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.